You have to understand that in Hollywood, not talking is like money. People pay for it, sell it, or use it to keep their image safe. But Albert Brooks not saying anything for the past few weeks. That wasn't about work. That was the sound of a heart breaking right then and there. We're talking about a friendship that's lasted more than 60 years. Before they got famous, before All in the Family, before Taxi Driver, before Rob Reiner became the director who shaped movies for a whole bunch of people, Albert and Rob were just two kids trying to make each other giggle. So when you hear that Albert Brooks has finally gone up to a microphone to talk about what happened in that Brentwood house, you pay attention. And what he's saying isn't the nice, approved message that everyone thought it'd be. It is real. It is mad. And honestly, it changes everything we thought we knew about this situation. Most people just swipe past the news stories. They see something sad, they see someone got arrested, and they go on. But you need to stop and really see what's going on here, because Albert isn't just sad about losing a friend. He is showing a big problem that's been hidden and getting worse behind doors for many years. He's talking about the stuff that nice people, and especially the big shots in Hollywood, won't say out loud. He's talking about Nick. For weeks, the story has been about love without any limits. You've seen the stories. They make Rob and Michelle look like perfect people who gave everything to their son who had troubles, and they were. No one is saying that's not true, but Albert's view is different. It's tougher. It's the view of the guy who was sitting in the living room 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, watching the slow crash that everyone else was too nice to say anything about. He's not saying Rob was wrong to love his son. He's saying that love, when it doesn't see what's real, when it won't look at the bad guy right in front of you, can be the scariest thing ever. Albert didn't go to a big TV station. He didn't sit with Oprah. He spoke to a small bunch of old pros in the business, people who knew Rob from the beginning, and the sound from that meeting has started to come out in bits, showing a picture that's super scary and true. He talked about the helping that made things worse. That's a word we use a lot, but Albert made it mean something strong. He described a certain night about 8 months before the killings. It was a relaxed dinner, just Rob, Michelle, Albert, and a few others. Nick showed up without telling anyone. Now, usually when the son with problems comes home, everyone gets quiet, but Albert says Rob's reaction was so sad and full of hope. Rob stood up, arms wide, ready to hug him. But Nick wasn't there for food. He was there for money, and not a little bit. We're talking about the kind of money that fixes problems that shouldn't be there. Albert remembers how the feeling in the room changed. He said he looked at Michelle and he saw fear, not being annoyed, not being let down, fear. And that is the part that the police papers first didn't notice. The fear had been there for a long time. Albert says that he took Rob aside that night. He pulled his oldest friend out to the patio and asked him straight, "How long are you going to let him keep you like a prisoner?" And this is the part that bothers Albert now. Rob didn't get mad. He didn't stick up for Nick. He just looked at Albert all beaten and said, "If I stop, he dies." Rob really thought that his money and being there were the only things keeping Nick from falling apart. He didn't see that by keeping the bad stuff away, he was letting it come right into his own bedroom. What's surprising people right now is Albert's not wanting to use mental health as a full excuse. We live in a time where we try to get why the bad guy did it, where we look for the hurt, the drug stuff, the reasons. And sure, Nick Reiner had his bad sides. The drug use is known by everyone, but Albert is cutting through that talk. He's saying, "I knew lots of people hooked on drugs in the 70s. I knew lots of mixed up kids, they didn't do this." He is pushing back on the story that Nick was hurt by his own thoughts. He's saying that there was meanness there, a deep hate toward the people who gave him life that was there without any drugs. He talked about the being jealous. That's something the regular news isn't saying yet. The really bad envy Nick felt toward his dad's big success. Imagine growing up next to the guy who made The Princess Bride. When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me. Every time Nick tried something, it was compared to a huge thing. Albert remembers a time from years ago on a movie set where Nick yelled at a worker who talked about his dad. It wasn't just kids stuff, it was hate. Albert thinks that Nick didn't just want his parents' money, he wanted to wreck the high place they were on. Killing them wasn't just a steal that went bad or anger from drugs. It was the biggest way to ruin the big statue. And let's talk about the people defending him. Albert is really mad about the lawyer tricks we're already seeing. The defense lawyer, Alan Jackson, is the best. He's going to make it look like a sick young guy who the system let down. Albert is scared that it's going to work. He's telling anyone who will hear, "Don't let them make Rob the bad guy in his own killing." Because that's the next thing, isn't it? The defense will say Rob pushed him too much or Rob helped him too much or the pressure of the Reiner name was too big. They will blame the dead people because the dead can't talk back. Albert is making himself the voice that Rob doesn't have now. He is the one who saw the love but also the one who saw the bad treatment that Rob got from his own son. There is a certain story Albert told that has made everyone feel cold. It was about Michelle. Michelle Singer Reiner was the one who held things together. She was the photographer, the artist, the mom who tried to keep things calm. Albert got upset when talking about her. He said that a few weeks before it ended, Michelle called him. She didn't talk about Nick right out, but she asked Albert about safety systems. She asked about safe rooms. This is a woman living in one of the safest areas in Los Angeles in a house like a castle. She wasn't afraid of robbers. She was afraid of the person who knew the door code. Albert told her to change the codes. He told her to get a guard. He doesn't know if she ever did. That guilt, the feeling like I should have gone there and watched myself, is eating him up. The thing you have to get about this friendship is that Albert Brooks and Rob Reiner were almost like the same person in two bodies. They shared ideas. They made up their lives together. For Albert to be by himself now is a sad thing all on its own. But his anger is giving him a reason to go on. He is taking apart the fancy Hollywood act that usually keeps these families safe. Usually when a famous person's kid goes wrong, the people who handle news clean it up. They say rehab, they ask for no questions. Albert is opening it all up because he feels that not talking is what got them killed. If someone had called the cops 3 years ago when Nick threw a chair through a window, which Albert says happened, maybe Nick would be in jail and Rob and Michelle would be alive. But no one called the cops because you don't call the cops on Rob Reiner's son. You call a private doctor, you call a helper. This is the big blame Albert is making. The special treatment killed them. The way to skip the bad results that regular people get meant that Nick Reiner never hit the lowest point until the lowest point was killing two people. People are also looking at Albert's body moves in the few videos that have come out. He looks 10 years older. The quick, funny, smart talk that made him a comedy star is gone, replaced by a slow, heavy surprise. He described the moment he got the call. It wasn't from the family, it was from a work friend who heard it on the police radio. Can you imagine hearing that your best friend has been cut up on a police radio before you even get a message? He said he drove to Brentwood. He saw the tape. He saw the lights. He tried to get past the line yelling that he was family, but the cops didn't care. They didn't know who he was or they didn't care. He was just another old guy yelling at a crime spot. That picture, Albert Brooks standing outside the yellow tape while the bodies of the people he loved most were being handled like clues, is something that will stay with this town for a long time. And now we look toward the trial in January. Albert has made it clear he plans to be there, not in the back. He wants to sit right behind the person who says Nick is guilty. He wants Nick to look at him. He wants Nick to see the face of the man who knows the truth. Because that's the danger Albert is to the defense. He knows the past. He knows the lies. He knows every time Nick said he'd stop and every time Rob gave money to fix it. He is a living book of the family's secret fights, and he is ready to show it all. This breaks the quiet rule of keep things private first. The Reiner kids, Jake and Romy, have asked for quiet. They have asked for letting go, and that is their right. They are sad in their own way, trying to keep the good memory of their parents without fully wrecking the memory of their brother. It's a nice, hard road they are on, but Albert isn't on that road. He isn't family by blood, which lets him not have to forgive no matter what. He is the friend, and the friend wants things to be fair. He's also talking about how the movie world is reacting, the fake part of it, the posts on X, the pictures on Instagram from people who say they're so sad but who haven't called Rob in 5 years. The people who knew Nick was dangerous but kept asking him to parties because of his family name. Albert is pointing them out without aims, but people know he's sick of the act of being sad. He wants real blame. He wants to know who sold Nick the drugs that night. He wants to know who drove him to the house. He wants the whole group of helpers to be shown. This is why this video, this story is important. It's not just talk about famous people. It's a lesson in how we deal with mind problems, getting hooked, and having money. It's about how far mom and dad love can go. Rob Reiner's movies taught us that love wins everything. The Princess Bride taught us that death can't stop real love, but Albert Brooks is standing here telling us the bad truth. Love didn't stop this. Love made it happen. Love gave the way in and the chance. It's a dark, mean turn that feels like it's from one of their movies, but it's real. There's a moment Albert told about from planning the funeral. He was sitting with Jake and Romy. They were looking at photos for the service. Pictures of Rob making movies, pictures of Michelle smiling, and then they found a picture of the whole family from maybe 15 years ago. Nick is there smiling, looking regular, looking glad. Albert said he wanted to burn the photo. He couldn't look at the fake happy family. He couldn't look at the face of the killer smiling next to the people he hurt. But the kids kept the photo because to them, that was still their brother. That split between the family who needs to remember the good and the friend who can only see the bad is where the real pull of this story is. We also have to talk about how this is hurting the body. Albert is in his late 70s. This kind of bad thing can end you. The worry, the mad feelings, the nights without sleep. He said quick that he feels like he's next not in a killing way but in a dying way. Losing Rob was like losing an arm. He's getting through a world that doesn't feel right anymore. A world where Rob Reiner isn't a call away. He shared a story about the in-laws, making that movie, the laughs, the wild stuff. He said Rob was the only one who could make him laugh until he couldn't breathe, and now the quiet is too much. He tries to watch the old movies, but he can't. He sees Rob's face and he sees the crime pictures that are in his bad dreams. He feels that Nick stole Rob's big work too. How do you watch When Harry Met Sally now without thinking about how the director died? It makes everything bad. But the most scary thing Albert said, the thing that really keeps you awake, was what he said about the eyes. He said that the last few times he saw Nick, the eyes were empty, not sad, not from drugs, just empty like something had left. And Rob saw it too. Albert says Rob saw it, but Rob thought that empty was hurt, that needed help. Albert thought it was a sign to run. That big difference in how they saw it is the sad part. One man went to the fire with water. The other man yelled to get away. The man with the water got burned. As we get closer to the trial in January, expect Albert Brooks to talk more. He's done being the funny guy. He's done being the helper. He's taking the job of the one who blames and what people think. He knows that a group deciding might listen to a sad story about Nick's kid days. He knows that expensive lawyers can change what's real. So he is putting his mark down now. He is making the story. Rob and Michelle were hurt by a bad person they raised. It's rough. It's super hard to hear. It goes against our feeling to keep a sad family stuff private, but Albert says that the truth is the only way to show respect now. Lies won't bring them back, nice words won't bring them back. Only the cold, real truth of what happened in that house matters. He wants you to know that Rob was scared that night. That's the part he keeps saying. He doesn't want you to think Rob died easy. He wants you to know there was fear. Why? Because he wants Nick to pay for that fear. He wants the bad result to match the bad thing. It's a fight from love. So when you see news about the Reiner case, don't just think about the court stuff. Think about Albert Brooks sitting in his house with 60 years of memories that are now like ghosts. Think about the call he is waiting for, the one that says fair has been done, and know that even when it comes, it won't be enough, because his friend is still gone. This isn't a movie. There is no big turn where everything is okay. There is just the slow end to nothing. And Albert Brooks is the last guy there in the place yelling at the picture, telling us all that we didn't see the warnings. The question is, are we finally paying attention? The news people are going to try to make this clean. They will show bits of Rob getting prizes. They will show Michelle's pictures. They will talk about getting better. Albert is here to tell us that the hurt is still open. He's here to tell us that sometimes the people we love the most are the ones with the knife. And sometimes the only person who sees it coming is the friend who is watching from the side. Can't stop the wreck. Keep your eyes on the trial. Watch how the defense tries to quiet Albert. Watch how they try to make him look like a mad old guy, but remember what he said. Remember the dinner. Remember the fear in Michelle's eyes. That is the truth of the Reiner family sad story. It wasn't a quick break. It was a slow, painful fall into dark that everyone saw, but no one stopped. And now all that's left is the quiet and the voice of one man trying to make sure we never forget how it really ended. If you think you know the whole story because you read a post, you're wrong. The real thing is much worse, much sadder, and much more like people. And Albert Brooks is the only one brave enough to say it. This is a call to wake up, not just for Hollywood, but for anyone who thinks love is enough to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. It's a tough lesson, but it's the last lesson Rob Reiner will ever teach us, said through the hurt voice of his best friend.